Commander Vexerel sat in the white medical room. His forearms rested on the metal chair. The Crethian doctor looked at him with concerned eyes. Vexerel was the greatest warrior in the galaxy. He had fought the Vorgath horde. He had survived the human campaigns. He had won every battle, but today he looked afraid. The doctor adjusted her viewing device. She studied the readings on her screen. When she mentioned humans, Vexerel's heart rate jumped. His skin changed color. His breathing became fast. "Commander, you have faced the most dangerous enemies in the galaxy," the doctor said. "Why do humans frighten you?" Vexerel was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Because they should not exist. They break every rule of nature. They terrify me more than any monster I have ever fought." The doctor nodded. "Tell me about your first meeting with them." Vexerel closed his eyes. He remembered that day 15 years ago. The Galactic Coalition had just discovered Earth. The scientists were excited. A new species to join the coalition. But when they studied humans, they were confused. Humans were weak. Their bones broke easily. Their skin could not stop basic weapons. They had no natural armor. No claws, no venom. They could not even see in the dark properly. The scientists laughed. What could these soft creatures offer to the coalition? The coalition offered humans simple jobs. Research positions. Medical support. Safe roles far from combat. Vexerel remembered watching the video transmission. The human representative was a woman named Commander Hana Yoon. She had short black hair and cold eyes. She listened to the coalition's offer. Then she smiled. "We appreciate your offer," Commander Yoon said, "but we would like combat positions instead." The coalition leaders laughed. They thought it was a joke. Humans in combat? They would die in minutes, but the humans insisted. Finally, High Admiral Thexnor agreed to a test. One small mission. If humans failed, they would accept support roles. If they succeeded, they could fight. Vexerel was there when the human team arrived. He stood on the command ship's bridge. He watched them prepare for the mission. The leader was Captain Minho Kang. He was a short man with dark eyes and a calm face. He moved efficiently, checking his team's equipment. There were 5 humans in total. Lieutenant Ji-Woo Park was their medical officer. She was small and quiet. Sergeant Doyen Lee handled explosives. He smiled too much for someone carrying bombs. Private Seojin Choi was young, barely an adult. The last team member was a weapons specialist named Corporal Minji Han. Vexerel thought they looked pathetic. Their armor was thin. Their weapons were primitive chemical projectiles. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, just metal bullets and determination. The mission was simple. Enemy forces held a small outpost on a border planet. Coalition forces needed to remove them. The enemy had 20 soldiers. The humans had 5. Vexerel expected the humans to die quickly. He prepared to send rescue forces. The humans dropped from their ship. Vexerel watched through the ship's cameras. They moved through the rocky terrain. They were slow compared to other species. They stopped to rest. They drank water frequently. Everything about them screamed weakness. Then the enemy spotted them. Plasma fire lit up the canyon. The humans scattered behind rocks. Vexerel waited for them to call for help. They did not. Instead, Captain Kang started giving orders in his calm voice. What happened next changed everything Vexerel knew about combat. The humans charged. Not retreated, charged. They ran toward enemy fire. Sergeant Lee threw explosives while laughing. Private Choi took a plasma bolt to his leg. He screamed. Vexerel thought he would fall. But Choi kept running. He fired his weapon with one hand while dragging his burned leg behind him. Lieutenant Park reached Choi. She pulled him behind cover. Vexerel watched through the medical scanner. The wound was severe. Park should evacuate him. Instead, she injected something into his leg. Choi screamed again. Then he stood up and continued fighting. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of continuous combat. Any other species would have retreated after 1 hour. The humans fought until they could barely stand. Corporal Han lost her helmet to an explosion. Blood ran down her face. She wiped it away and kept shooting. Captain Kang took a plasma hit to his shoulder. The smell of burned flesh filled his suit. He did not slow down. He led his team forward, always forward, never back. The enemy started to panic. Vexerel saw it in their movements. They were not losing because of tactics. They were losing because the humans would not stop. No matter how many times they were hit, no matter how much they bled. The humans kept coming. Finally, the enemy retreated. They ran from 5 humans. 20 trained soldiers fled from 5 wounded humans who should have been dead. When the humans returned to the ship, Vexral went to the hangar. He watched them exit their transport. All 5 were injured. Choi could barely walk. Han was covered in blood. Park had burns on her arms. Lee had a broken rib. Kang's shoulder was black and smoking. They should have been crying, screaming, begging for medical help. Instead, they were laughing. They clapped each other on the back. They celebrated their victory like they had not just survived hell. Vexral approached Captain Kang. The human looked at him with tired eyes. "You should be dead," Vexral said. "All of you should be dead." Kang smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was something else, something that made Vexral uncomfortable. "Yes, we probably should be, but we are not. That is what we do, Commander. We do not die when we are supposed to." That night, Vexral could not sleep. He reviewed the battle footage again and again. He tried to understand what he had seen. These humans had no special abilities, no superior weapons, no biological advantages. They should have lost, but they won. They won because they refused to lose. They won because pain did not stop them. They won because dying was optional to them. Vexral realized something terrible that night. The galaxy was about to meet a species that did not play by the rules, a species that treated survival as a choice rather than an instinct, a species that scared him more than any enemy he had ever faced. In the medical room, Vexral opened his eyes. The doctor was still watching him. "That was just the beginning," Vexral said quietly. "That was when I first understood. Humans are not warriors. They are something worse. They are survivors who forgot how to quit." The doctor made notes on her device. "And that frightens you?" "Yes," Vexral said. "Because if they can survive what should kill them, then nothing in this galaxy can truly stop them." 6 months passed. The Coalition gave Vexral a new assignment. He would lead a joint operation with human forces. He did not want this. Humans made him uncomfortable. They fought in ways that made no sense. But High Command insisted. The target was a fortress world. The enemy had built massive walls and defense systems. It would take weeks to break through. Vexral brought 3 battalions of Coalition soldiers. The humans sent only 2 companies. Captain Kang was there again along with his team. Vexral planned the assault carefully. They would attack in waves. Each wave would retreat when casualties reached 15%. This was standard military practice. All species followed this rule. When too many soldiers died, the survivors lost morale and fighting ability. The attack began at dawn. Coalition forces moved forward. Enemy weapons fired from the walls. Plasma bolts lit up the sky. Vexral's soldiers fought well. They advanced steadily. When casualties reached 15%, Vexral ordered the first retreat. His soldiers pulled back. The humans did not. Vexral watched his screens in disbelief. The human companies kept pushing forward. They were taking heavy fire. Their casualty rate climbed past 20%. Then 30%. Vexral opened the communication channel. "Captain Kang, retreat immediately. Your losses are too high." Kang's voice came back calm. "Negative, Commander. We are making progress. We will continue." "That is an order, Captain." "Respectfully, Commander, we decline." "We can take this position." The humans fought for 2 days straight, 48 hours of continuous combat. Vexral could not believe what he was seeing. His Coalition soldiers needed rest every 8 hours. They needed food, water, and sleep. The humans pushed themselves beyond any reasonable limit. Private Choi stayed on the front line for 72 hours. Medical scanners showed dangerous levels of stimulants in his blood. He should have collapsed. Instead, he kept fighting. His hands shook from exhaustion. His eyes were red, but he kept pulling the trigger. Lieutenant Park moved between wounded soldiers. She had not slept in 60 hours. She injected medicine into injuries. She wrapped bandages. She pulled soldiers back from death. When she ran out of medical supplies, she used whatever she could find. Cloth from uniforms, glue from equipment kits, anything that would keep a human fighting. The Coalition soldiers watched in horror. To them, the humans looked like the walking dead. They stumbled forward with wounds that should have killed them. They fought with broken bones. They used injured arms to lift weapons. They were corpses that refused to fall down. On the 5th day, something changed. The enemy started making mistakes. They fired wildly. They wasted ammunition. Their defensive positions became sloppy. Vexrel realized what was happening. The enemy was breaking mentally. The humans were winning not through superior firepower, but through psychological warfare. The enemy could not understand why the humans would not stop. Every species had a breaking point, a moment when they decided survival was more important than victory. Humans seemed to have no such moment. On the 11th day, the enemy surrendered, not because they were defeated militarily. They surrendered because they were terrified. They could not handle fighting creatures that treated death as inconvenient rather than final. After the battle, Vexrel called a meeting with the human commanders. Captain Kang sat across from him. The human looked terrible. He had lost weight. His uniform was torn and dirty. Bandages covered his arms, but his eyes were still alert. "You lost 40% of your soldiers," Vexrel said. "That is unacceptable." Kang nodded slowly. "Yes, but we won. You could have died. All of you." "Yes, but we did not." Vexrel leaned forward. "Why? Why do you keep fighting when you should retreat?" Kang was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because that is what humans do, Commander. We do not stop. It is in our nature. Our ancestors hunted animals by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We won wars by outlasting our enemies. We crossed oceans, climbed mountains, and explored space because we refused to quit. Stopping is not in our programming." That night, Vexrel met with Dr. Zelvira. She was a xenobiologist who studied alien species. Vexrel asked her to explain humans to him. The doctor pulled up images of Earth. "Humans evolved on what we classify as a Class 12 death world," she said. "The highest danger rating possible." She showed Vexrel the data. Earth's gravity was 40% higher than the galactic average. This meant humans were naturally stronger than they appeared. Their bones were denser. Their muscles worked harder just to move around. Earth's atmosphere had 5 times more oxygen than most planets. This gave humans incredible endurance. Their bodies could process energy faster. They could work longer without rest. "Look at these creatures," the doctor said, showing images of Earth animals. "These are what humans competed with for survival." Vexrel saw creatures with massive teeth, animals that could crush bones with their jaws, predators that moved faster than any coalition species, poisonous insects, deadly plants. Earth was a nightmare planet. "Humans are persistence hunters," the doctor continued. "They evolved to chase prey for hours, sometimes days. The prey would run until it died of exhaustion. The humans would walk slowly behind it, never stopping, never giving up. Eventually, the prey would collapse and the humans would win." Vexrel felt cold. "They hunt by terrifying their prey to death?" "Essentially, yes. And now they apply this same technique to warfare. They win by simply refusing to stop. They break the enemy's will to fight." Vexrel left the meeting disturbed. He understood now. Humans were not brave. They were not heroic. They were built to outlast anything. Pain tolerance was not courage to them. It was biology. Their ability to keep fighting was not determination. It was evolution. The galaxy had invited a species of persistence predators to join them. Creatures that won by making their enemies too tired, too scared, and too broken to continue. Creatures that treated dying as just another obstacle to overcome. That night, Vexrel had nightmares. He dreamed of being hunted. He ran and ran, but the humans walked calmly behind him. They never hurried. They never stopped. They just kept coming, patient and inevitable, like death itself. In the medical room, Vexrel continued his story. The doctor listened carefully. After that battle, reports started coming in from across the coalition. Vexrel said, "Every commander who worked with humans reported the same thing. Humans did not retreat. They did not surrender. They simply did not stop." "That must have been valuable," the doctor said. "Valuable? Yes, terrifying?" "Also yes," Vexrel replied, "because we realized we had allied with a species that would never give up. Not even if it killed them, especially not if it killed them." 3 years into the war, the enemy adapted. They studied human tactics. They built weapons specifically designed to counter human strategies. Coalition Command expected human effectiveness to drop. They were wrong. Vexrel stood in the briefing room with other commanders. Intelligence reports covered the screens. The enemy had developed sonic weapons that caused extreme pain. They created chemical agents that attacked human respiratory systems. They designed traps that exploited human aggressive tendencies. "This should slow them down," High Admiral Thexnor said. The humans have relied on their pain tolerance and endurance. These new weapons target exactly those advantages. The first battle with the new enemy weapons was a disaster. Human forces walked into carefully prepared kill zones. The sonic weapons dropped soldiers to their knees. The chemical agents burned their lungs. Vexrel watched from the command ship, certain this would be the humans' first real defeat. The humans retreated. For the first time, they pulled back from a fight. Vexrel felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Maybe humans were normal after all. Maybe they could be stopped. 2 weeks later, the humans returned. Vexrel was shocked by what he saw. They wore modified armor with sound dampeners. They carried new filters for the chemical weapons. They moved differently too, using cover more effectively and advancing in shorter bursts. The enemy tried their sonic weapons again. The humans flinched but did not fall. The chemical attacks came next. The humans switched their breathing equipment and kept fighting. In 2 weeks, they had adapted to weapons that took the enemy months to develop. After the battle, Vexrel demanded a meeting with the human scientists. He found Dr. Yuna Kim in her laboratory. She was young, with long black hair tied back. She looked tired but excited. "How did you do this?" Vexrel asked, pointing at the modified equipment. "It took you only 2 weeks," Dr. Kim smiled. "We studied the enemy weapons. We took them apart. We understood how they worked. Then we built counters. Coalition scientists have been trying to counter these weapons for 6 months. They have made no progress. With respect, Commander, Coalition scientists study things carefully. They follow procedures. They test everything multiple times. We do not have time for that. We experiment quickly. We fail fast. We learn faster." Vexrel looked around the laboratory. He saw strange equipment, modified weapons, alien technology torn apart and rebuilt. "You are reverse engineering enemy technology?" "Yes, and Coalition technology. And our own technology. We take everything apart to understand it. Then we make it better. That is dangerous. You could create weapons you cannot control." Dr. Kim's smile faded. "Commander, we come from a planet that tried to kill us every day. We learned to take what nature gave us and make it work for our survival. We are still doing that. We will always do that." Vexrel left the laboratory more disturbed than when he entered. Humans did not just endure. They consumed. They took everything around them and turned it into tools for survival. They were like a virus adapting to every defense the galaxy created. The next major battle proved his fears correct. It happened on a frozen moon. Coalition forces were trapped by superior enemy numbers. The situation looked hopeless. Vexrel prepared to order an evacuation. Then the humans did something unexpected. Sergeant Doyen Lee and his squad stopped fighting like soldiers. They started fighting like hunters. They split into small groups. They used the terrain. They set ambushes. They attacked from angles the enemy did not expect. Vexrel watched through the tactical display. The humans moved like Earth predators. One group would attack, drawing enemy attention. Another group would strike from behind. They communicated with simple hand signals. They anticipated each other's movements. It was beautiful and horrifying. The enemy had superior numbers and weapons, but the humans had something else. They had millions of years of hunting instinct. They were pack predators, and the frozen moon was their hunting ground. Private Choi climbed to a high position. He picked off enemy soldiers one by one with his rifle. When they tried to find him, he was gone, repositioned to a new location. He was not just shooting. He was stalking. Lieutenant Park used the medical supplies to create traps. She mixed chemicals from the med kits with local ice to make slippery patches. Enemy soldiers fell and broke bones. She turned healing materials into weapons. The battle ended with the enemy losing 80% of their forces. The humans lost 12%. It was not a battle. It was a hunt. And the humans were the hunters. After this, enemy forces began to fear human soldiers. Reports came back from interrogations. Enemy prisoners spoke of humans as demons, creatures that could not die, monsters that appeared from nowhere and disappeared like ghosts, predators that hunted in the dark. Commander Hanayun used this fear as a weapon. She developed psychological warfare tactics. Human forces would leave signs of their presence before attacks. Strange symbols, messages, audio recordings of human voices. The enemy would find these markers and panic, sometimes retreating before any fighting began. Vexrel watched as humans became the Coalition's most effective weapon. Not because they were the strongest, not because they had the best technology, but because they learned faster than anyone else. They adapted to every challenge. They turned every disadvantage into an advantage. One day, Vexral found Captain Kang alone in the mess hall. The human was eating something that looked terrible. Vexral sat across from him. "Your people frighten the enemy more than our weapons," Vexral said. Kang nodded. "Good. Fear is a force multiplier. A scared enemy makes mistakes. But you use fear differently than we do. You do not just make them afraid of dying. You make them afraid of you specifically." "Because we are different," Kang said. "We come from a world that taught us to adapt or die. So we adapted. We learned to use everything. Tools, weapons, fear, hope, love, hate, everything is a resource to us. Everything can be turned into survival." "That is what scares me," Vexral admitted. "You treat everything as a tool, even yourselves. You modify your own bodies. You risk your own lives. You are willing to become weapons if necessary." Kang was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Yes, because survival is not a state to us, Commander. It is an action. We survive by doing whatever survival requires. That is the human way." Back in the medical room, Vexral continued his confession. The doctor was taking notes. "By the third year, everyone knew humans were essential to the war effort," Vexral said. "But some commanders began to worry. Humans were becoming too important, too powerful. They adapted so quickly that we could not predict what they would become." "Did they become a threat?" the doctor asked. "No," Vexral said quietly, "but some of us feared they might. And that fear led to a terrible mistake." Year 7 of the war, Vexral received an invitation to a classified meeting. When he arrived at the secure room, he saw the highest-ranking officers in the coalition. High Admiral Thexnor sat at the head of the table. His expression was grim. "We have a problem," the admiral said. "The humans." Vexral felt cold. He knew this conversation would happen eventually. The other officers nodded. General Clixfor spoke next. He was a Vorthian, a species known for strategic thinking. Humans now control critical military positions. They have access to our technology. They have proven they can adapt to anything. They learn faster than we can teach. What happens after the war? "They are our allies," Vexral said carefully. "For now," the admiral said. "But they are also the most dangerous species we have encountered. More dangerous than our enemies. If they decide to turn against us, could we stop them?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. No, they could not stop the humans. "Not anymore. I propose a solution," General Clixfor said. "We have intelligence about an enemy superweapon. A massive installation capable of destroying entire fleets. Someone must destroy it. The mission has less than 2% chance of success." Vexral understood immediately. His stomach turned. They wanted to send humans on a suicide mission. They wanted to eliminate the human military force while making it look like a legitimate operation. "This is murder," Vexral said. "This is survival," the admiral replied. "The war will end eventually. When it does, will humans be content with their role? Or will they decide they deserve more? They adapt, Vexral. They consume. They take everything and make it theirs. We cannot allow that." The vote was taken. Vexral voted against the plan. He was the only one. The mission was approved. All human units would be assigned to attack the superweapon installation. Coalition forces would provide minimal support. They expected no survivors. Vexral left the meeting feeling sick. He had fought beside humans for 7 years. They had saved his life 3 times. He owed them more than this. That night, he made a decision that could end his career. He contacted Captain Kang through a secure private channel. When Kang's face appeared on the screen, Vexral spoke quickly. "The mission you are about to receive is a death trap. High Command expects you to fail. They want you to fail." Kang's expression did not change. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made Vexral's blood run cold. "We know. You know? Then why are you going?" "Because the mission is real. That weapon exists. It can kill millions. Someone has to destroy it." Kang paused. "Thank you for the warning, Commander. We will remember this." The transmission ended. Vexral stared at the blank screen. The humans knew it was a trap and were going anyway. He could not decide if that was brave or insane. The mission launched 3 days later. Vexral watched from the command ship. Every human soldier deployed to the operation. 2,000 humans against an installation defended by 20,000 enemies with unlimited ammunition and energy shields. Coalition Command expected the humans to die within 6 hours. After 6 hours, the humans had breached the outer defenses. After 12 hours, they were inside the installation. After 24 hours, they had split into dozens of small teams, each attacking different objectives simultaneously. Vexrel watched the tactical displays in disbelief. The humans were not trying to survive. They were trying to complete the mission. Every soldier knew they were probably going to die. They fought anyway. They fought harder. Lieutenant Park lost both legs in an explosion. The medical sensors showed she dragged herself half a kilometer to reach a control room. She uploaded a virus into the enemy systems before she died. Her last transmission was a simple message: objective complete. Sergeant Lee stayed behind to manually detonate a reactor core. He sang a human song while he worked. The camera feed showed him smiling as the explosion consumed him. He took 300 enemy soldiers with him. Private Choi piloted a damaged ship directly into the weapons control center. His voice on the communication channel was calm. He talked to his team about what they would eat when they got home. Then he crashed his ship and the channel went silent. The battle lasted 48 hours. At the end, the superweapon was destroyed. 1,400 humans died. 600 survived. Coalition Command had expected 0 survivors. Captain Kang sent a final transmission before leaving the installation. His face was covered in blood and burns. His eyes were hard as stone. Mission accomplished. Weapon destroyed. Returning to base, he paused. Then he added, "We know what you tried to do. We completed your mission anyway. Remember that. The transmission ended." Coalition Command was silent. They had tried to kill the humans. The humans knew. And they completed the impossible mission anyway, just to prove a point. When the surviving humans returned, something had changed. They did not accuse anyone. They did not file complaints. They said nothing about the betrayal. They simply went back to their duties. But everyone could feel the difference. The humans were quieter now. They watched coalition officers with calculating eyes. They knew they had been betrayed. They chose to forgive but not forget. 3 weeks later, High Admiral Thexnor resigned. He gave no explanation. Rumors said he could not sleep anymore. He had nightmares of humans hunting him through dark corridors. General Clixfor requested a transfer to a peaceful sector, far from any human forces. His request was approved immediately. Coalition leadership learned a terrible lesson. You could try to kill humans. You could betray them, but they would complete their mission first. They would succeed out of pure spite, and then they would remember what you did. Vexrel met with Captain Kang 1 month after the mission. The human had recovered from his injuries. They sat in a quiet observation room overlooking the stars. "Why did you do it?" Vexrel asked. "You knew it was a trap. You could have refused." "The weapon was real," Kang said simply. "People would have died if we did not destroy it. Our lives were less important than those lives. But Command tried to kill you. Yes, and we will remember that. But the mission was still necessary. We do not abandon our duties because someone betrayed us. We finish what we start." Kang looked at Vexrel. "You warned me. That was honorable. I will remember that too." Vexrel felt a chill. The human was not threatening him. But the words carried weight. Humans remembered everything. Every kindness. Every betrayal. What will you do now? Keep fighting. Keep surviving. It is what we do. Kang stood up to leave. At the door, he turned back. "Thank you, Vexrel, for choosing honor over politics. There are not many like you." In the medical room, Vexrel's voice was heavy with emotion. "That was when I truly understood how dangerous humans are," he told the doctor. "Not because they are violent. Not because they are strong, but because they are principled. They will die for what they believe is right, and if you betray them, they will still do what is right. Then they will remember you forever. That frightens you?" the doctor asked. "Terrifies me," Vexrel admitted, "because you cannot negotiate with principles. You cannot buy loyalty from people who value duty over life. Humans are impossible to control because they control themselves better than anyone else could." Year 12. The war was ending. Enemy forces collapsed across multiple fronts. Coalition fleets prepared for the final offensive. Victory was close. Vexrel commanded one of the assault groups. Human units were integrated throughout his forces. They had become essential. Then something strange happened. The enemy leadership sent a private message to Coalition Command. They wanted to surrender. But they had one condition. They would not surrender to human forces. They would only surrender to other coalition species. Vexrel read the enemy message in disbelief. These were the same enemies who had fought the coalition for 12 years. They had killed millions. They had never shown fear before, but they were terrified of humans. The final battle began on the enemy's last stronghold planet. Coalition forces surrounded the planet. The enemy had nowhere to run. They prepared for their last stand. Vexrel expected a bloody fight. Instead, Captain Kang did something unexpected. He ordered all human forces to hold position. They did not advance. They did not attack. They simply waited. Coalition forces moved forward without them. The enemy fought desperately. They threw everything they had at the coalition forces. Vexrel was about to order the final assault when all communication channels suddenly activated. It was Commander Hana Yoon. She was broadcasting to both sides. "Ceasefire," she said calmly. "I am opening negotiations." Vexrel was shocked. Humans did not have authority to negotiate surrenders. That was Coalition Command's job. But before he could object, the enemy responded. They wanted to hear what the humans had to say. Commander Yoon offered terms. The terms were more generous than coalition policy allowed. Full amnesty for soldiers, medical treatment for all wounded, safe return to homeworlds, protection from war crimes tribunals, food and supplies for civilian populations. Coalition Command was furious. These terms were too soft. The enemy deserved punishment, not mercy. But the enemy accepted immediately. They surrendered to the humans. The war was over. What happened next confused Vexrel more than anything he had seen in 12 years of war. The humans switched from warriors to caregivers instantly. Dr. Yuna Kim set up medical stations. She treated enemy wounded with the same care she gave to coalition soldiers. She worked for 30 hours straight, saving lives of people who had been trying to kill her days before. Private Choi, who had killed hundreds of enemy soldiers, now shared his food rations with enemy prisoners. He sat with them. He learned their names. He treated them like friends. Lieutenant Park, who had dragged herself across a battlefield with no legs to complete a mission, now carried wounded enemy soldiers to medical care. She smiled at them. She told them they were safe now. Vexrel could not understand it. These were the same humans who fought like demons, who refused to retreat, who survived impossible odds. Now they acted like the enemy had never tried to kill them. He found Captain Kang in a refugee camp. The human was helping to distribute food to enemy civilians. Children played around his feet. Old enemy soldiers watched him with confused gratitude. "I do not understand you," Vexrel said. "How can you be so brutal in war and so kind in peace? How do you switch so completely?" Kang looked at him with tired eyes. "We do not switch, Commander. We are always the same. We fight because we love. We endure pain because we value life. We become monsters in war so that we can protect the gentle things in peace. That makes no sense. To you, maybe. But to us it is simple. We do not fight because we hate what is in front of us. We fight because we love what is behind us. Our families, our homes, our future. We become dangerous to protect what we cherish." Vexrel thought about this for a long time. That night he accessed Earth's historical databases. He wanted to understand where this paradox came from. What he found disturbed him more than any battle. Humans had been at war with themselves for their entire history. They had invented thousands of ways to kill each other, but they had also invented concepts that no other species had. Honor codes, rules of war, treatment of prisoners, protection of civilians, medical neutrality. Humans had created elaborate systems to limit their own violence. They made rules about how to kill each other properly. Other species did not need these rules. They fought until one side won, then they stopped. But humans needed rules because they were too good at killing. They could exterminate their enemies completely if they wanted, so they created morals to stop themselves. Vexrel found Earth's greatest heroes. They were not always the best warriors. They were often people who showed mercy, leaders who chose peace, soldiers who saved enemy lives. Humans celebrated those who held back their power more than those who used it. He realized something terrifying. Humans were dangerous precisely because they had morals. They could become monsters, but they chose not to. They had the capacity for infinite violence, but they restrained themselves. That restraint was more frightening than any weapon. The weeks after the war ended proved this point. Humans did not celebrate victory with parades. They held memorial services for all the dead. Coalition dead, enemy dead, even their own dead. They mourned everyone. Then they began rebuilding enemy worlds. They used their own resources. They spent their own money. They helped the people who had tried to kill them. When Coalition members questioned this, Commander Yoon gave a simple answer. The war is over. They are not enemies anymore. They are just people who need help. Within 6 months, former enemy soldiers were working alongside humans to rebuild cities. Former enemies were trading with Earth. Children who had been taught to fear humans were playing with human soldiers. Bexaral watched all of this with growing unease. He finally understood why humans terrified him. It was not their violence. It was not their endurance. It was not even their adaptability. It was their unpredictability. You could never know which human you would meet. The warrior who would die for a cause, or the healer who would save your life. The monster who would hunt you forever, or the friend who would share their last meal with you. Humans contained both extremes in the same body. They could switch between them in a heartbeat. And you never knew which one would appear until it was too late. 1 year after the war ended, Bexaral attended a coalition ceremony. They were honoring the human forces for their service. Captain Kang and his team stood on stage. They looked uncomfortable with the attention. After the ceremony, Bexaral spoke with Kang one last time. What will you do now? Bexaral asked. Go home. I have a farm waiting for me. I will grow food and raise animals. I will try to forget how to be a soldier. Will you succeed? Kang smiled sadly. Probably not. But I will try. That is also the human way. We try to be better than we are. We fail often, but we keep trying. In the medical room, Bexaral finished his story. The doctor looked at him with understanding eyes. So you fear humans because they are unpredictable, she said. I fear them because they contain infinite potential for both good and evil. Bexaral corrected. They can be angels or demons. And you never know which one you will meet. That is terrifying, the doctor nodded. But they ended the war with mercy. This time, Bexaral said quietly. But what about next time? What if next time they choose differently? What if next time they decide mercy is not enough? That is what keeps me awake at night. Not what humans are, but what they could be if they chose to be it.